So now we're going to take a look at some of the unique Buzz capabilities from a student perspective. I'm going to log in as student one, who's Jenica Roberts. She's currently enrolled in 3 different courses. I'd have my common to-do list and activity stream. As I log into any one course, it's going to give me information about the teachers, about how much time's left in the course, my progress, any agenda items for today. If I have projects in this course, they're going to be brought front and center. They'll have their own start and end dates, which is pretty unique inside LMS offerings. I also will see how my to-do list is stacking up and what I need to do over the next 7 to 10 days. As I start working my way down through the course, a couple of unique features that Buzz offers is something called student choice. Most systems, when you come in, have a common collection of learning activities that they present to the users. So in this case, this is one of those common pieces of instruction. And as the student, I can mark it as complete to inform the teacher that I'm ready to have a discussion with this. That mark as complete is a unique feature with inside Buzz. When I move on to the next part of the course, it actually takes me to these choice activities. At this point in time, the teacher has previously vetted 5 different activities, and as a learner, I'm supposed to choose 2 of them. And so it might be that I want to preview the movie clip because that's a modality of instruction that I enjoy. And so what I can do then is choose that, and it will automatically modify my course to the activities that I've chosen. So if I go back, you can see that now in my course, I've chosen the video. I have one more activity to choose. I can go back into that choice activity and I could choose my next one and it would be added to the library. And so this idea of choice and voice inside the course allows me to be more career and college ready by allowing the student to use their agency to really navigate through the learning activities in a very unique way. So this is something quite specific to Buzz and how it's set up. Another unique feature is the concept of testing out of content. A lot of systems will have the idea that I'm going to release content through an assessment. Well, we believe that it's better for the student to understand the totality of the course by looking at the table of contents and then removing things that they don't need to see because they're able to test out of them. And so we do things a little bit in reverse order. You can see in this case, assignment 1, 2, and 3 are attached to outcomes 1, 2, and 3. So when I come in and I take this test, based upon what I can do, so in this case, I'm going to answer some questions. The teacher has set this quiz up so that there has to be 3 questions per each learning outcome, and that I have to answer 100% of them in order to pass out. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in the right order. This is an example of an assessment. I can go ahead and watch the rendering of the model, move it around, take a look at it, and then I can go ahead and answer the questions. Yep, they're amazing. Which one of these things are not part of the heart? I could leave myself a toggle to make sure I come back and test this if I'm guessing. I could also leave myself a note. I could also come up and use the highlighter to highlight passages inside the assessment, or actually use the answer eliminator to remove obviously wrong choices. So all of these features are nice things that I can put together in order to really do my best on the quiz. In the second section, I'm going to go ahead and miss a couple of these because I'm going to fail standard 2, and then standard 3, I'm going to get them correct. And so now as this formative assessment kicks in, I'm going to go ahead and submit my answers. I do have one answer I could review if I wanted to, but I'm going to go ahead and just submit them. And as I come in, you're going to see a note down on the bottom that says, congratulations, you've tested out of part of the course based upon your formative assessment. So now when I come back and take a look at my table of contents, it no longer has assignment 1 or assignment 3 because I've tested out of that content. And again, a lot of our content partners really like this for credit recovery. It allows a teacher who is not familiar with the student to simply put them in the course, have the student take the necessary pre-tests, and therefore they're only learning what they need to as far as credit recovery is concerned. We do also do some other things around pacing. You can control the flow very easily by simply jumping in. It says, oops, you've got to go back and pace this correctly. So I've got to get this activity done. It's a foundational activity. I've got to get it done before I can move on to the next activity. And once I complete that, then I can move forward. Now, completion is an interesting, unique capability. What does complete mean? Complete could mean a submission. Complete could mean mark as complete. Complete could mean any score, or complete could mean a passing score. And so again, we don't just say, hey, it's complete, like lots of other LMSs. We give the author the ability to choose what they actually want the event to be in order to move forward. So again, it's a good way to handle things. PBL, I'll show you a course here in PBL in a minute that we handle differently. The gradebook looks different, so there's some interesting things that I'll show in a second. Badging. Badging, some LMSs have badging, others do not. Badging is used a lot more in elementary through 5 in order to incent students to move forward. Lots of different ways to carry the school brand into the course so they earn badges and motivate. There's lots of other activities that you can do, discussion boards, journals, wikis, flip grids, all sorts of stuff inside the environment. So we'll actually see what a submission looks like. If I click into a grading activity, your content will go up above, and you just simply scroll into it like a modern page. So in this case, I can add my comments here. I could also record my comments if I wanted to, either video or audio. I'm going to record something here. We give them up to 3 minutes to record. I'm going to go ahead and insert that. That'll come back and in just a second as it gets processed. We also have the ability to draw if we want to. So I can click on the draw and I can put in comments inside here, show my work, different things that I need to do in here. We're always auto-saving things for the student inside there so their work is never lost. Smiley faces, your typical rich text editing. We also have the ability to do equations. So I could say the square root of 36 divided by 3 plus 3 and kick that in and save that as well. And if I needed to edit it, I just click and say, well, I'm going to simplify this. This is really just 6. And I could save that. And so there's some really nice things we can do from that standpoint. So lots of ways for students to add their submission to the work. They also can simply click on and choose a file. I have my G Suite turned on so I could create a file or choose an already existing document. And then when I'm ready to go, I simply submit the work. So that's kind of how the process works from a student submission standpoint. As they come back to the main course, I could come up here and I could say, hey, I want to check my grades. When I come into the grade page, I can see how far I'm progressing, what my current score is. If I have any assignments that have yet to be graded, they would show up with a document down on the bottom. I also have the ability to look at anything I've selected from a choice folder. And whether it's gradable or not, the teacher would score those. I have the ability to also track how much time I've spent in the course. All of this detail is available for parents and observers as well, so they know exactly what's going on inside the course. So that's kind of the walkthrough on what the student sees and some unique functionality with inside a course. So I've already logged in as Thomas Webster and I'm in the teacher application. We're going to take a minute and look at how content is created. Buzz has some very unique ways of creating content. In this case, this teacher has the ability to create a course. So we're just going to call this English. And we'll go ahead and say next. There's different options in here between ranged and continuous. I've now got a blank course down here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the editor. And you'll notice that we're in a clean course. Nothing's happened so far. Let's just walk through a couple of things that we would normally do. The first thing we would do is add objectives. We could add them manually or we could import them. In the domain settings, you can control what standard sets you want to display. We'll just go with grade 10 English for now. And I know that I want all of these standards on all of these standards. I could drill into them further, but that's what I'm going to cover at this point in time. So now I could go ahead and save this, and I have my standards now aligned to the content. I could drag and drop things over into my resource bin, but I'm just going to kind of build them one at a time. I'm going to change the semesters over to all, so we're looking at all of our periods. And I'm going to go ahead and just start with a very simple activity. We'll just say it's going to be a rich text activity, and this is going to be welcome to the course. And again, you've seen the editor in other locations, but you have a full editor, lots of capabilities, smiley faces. I can draw things if I want to, audio, video, lots of really good things going on inside here. Now, one of the unique characteristics is I don't have to put content in a folder, where in other systems, other LMSs, you do. It seems like a kind of a trivial thing, but it goes to the heart of how content is organized inside a course. A lot of other systems will require you to put in a folder, so we'll call this Unit 1, and we'll go ahead and give it a description of next week, and we'll go ahead and go to Settings. This is where we differentiate considerably between other systems in the marketplace. We're currently in the winter semester. We'll leave it there for now. I could enable student choice in this folder. I could also treat this folder as a project. I could allow extra credit coming out of there, digital library. I could have objectives that I'm trying to grab. I could have dragged these over, but I'll just select them at this point in time. I could have badges that are applied, or I could actually modify things as far as when they're seen, visibility, access, so on and so forth. So anyways, there's a lot of stuff going on in a folder. And if we go ahead and save that, then I'm ready to go. Now, within inside any folder, I can add an activity, or I can add choice activities for students now that I've turned that on. So I'm going to add a simple assignment. And this will be Great Wall of China. And so let's come up here, and we're going to use the Great Wall of China as an example. And whoops, China, that'll work. Let's go to Wikipedia. We'll grab some stuff out of here, and we'll copy that, come back up here, and just drop it in. Now you'll see in here that I've only got one edit box, but I could have chosen course resources, a Google Drive, a website, could have typed it in myself if I wanted to. And as I scroll down, I have the ability to put in attachments as well. Connected to any learning activity is the ability to make it gradable, for instance. This would give it a mark as complete. This would actually give it a Dropbox where I can add things. The way that we add Dropboxes is very different. Any activity inside Buzz can have a Dropbox, where in other competing LMSs, Dropboxes have to be their own activity, thus making the course a lot longer and a little more unruly as in regards to how a student might navigate it. We could also give it a due date if we want to, allow late submissions, lots of other options in here. It's just very, very powerful. So we'll go ahead and preview this real quick just to see what it looks like. So it comes up. As I scroll down through here, you can see the submission boxes right there. I have my objectives at the bottom, and I'm ready to go. So this is one way of creating content inside this Unit 1. Another way of creating content is using what we call templates. So I'm going to create a branded template in here, and I'm going to have this be a 2-column template with a left panel column and then the main body. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that, and we'll call this Great Wall of China again, and we'll go ahead and add and edit it. And this time you're going to notice that there's more than one edit box because this is using our content assembly tool. And so I would have my subtitle here, and then on the left hand, I know that this document is going to produce a 2-column responsive design piece of content. So make sure to add your document about your experience at the end of this activity. Right, so these are going to be the instructions. They're going to show up on the left-hand side. I know that there's a little gray or text brown color, so I'm going to lighten it up a bit. And then I'm going to come down and actually paste that same piece of information about the Great Wall of China in here as well. And so now I'm going to go ahead and preview this one, and you'll see the difference between using a custom template and just putting content in. So in this case, this template will be responsive in design. As it moves into a smaller document, the columns will lay over the top of themselves, and it just works out really, really well. And so I'm going to save out of here. So just to kind of walk through the student experience, just in this very simple example, when I come into the document, it could be very simple, not much at all. This one's going to come in, it's going to show the Great Wall of China, and that's fine. It presents it, it's there, it looks good, it will work fine. But you could also take the same thing and turn it into a branded template. And when you scroll down through there, then it just looks better. I forgot to make this a gradable activity, so I'm going to go back to settings, make it gradable, add a Dropbox, add a due date as well if I wanted to, and then I can preview it again. Again, just adding a Dropbox like I did there is very difficult in some other systems, other LMSs, but the way we've designed Buzz is just to make it flow super easily. And so you can see the result of using our content templates. We have them for assessment as well as for just straight up content inside the course. If I come back to the editor, there's other things I can add in here. I can have assignments and assessments and discussions and flashcards and journals and peer review. All of those things are available to me to add to a course. Ultimately, what's going to happen is I'm going to have some course settings. I'm going to add a thumbnail to this, make sure all my grading periods are done correctly. I've set it up right, and then from that point forward, I'm off and running. Now, I'm going to do a couple of things on this course. I'm going to actually turn this into what we call a master course. And as a master course, it would be used to create sections of this English 10. So now I'm going to come back over here and kind of talk a little bit about masters and derivatives. I'm going to come up here and create another course. And this time I'm going to create a course based upon one that already exists in my domain. So I'm going to grab that English course I just created, and I'm going to create a derivative child, meaning any updates to the master are automatically going to flow into my copy of the course. This becomes really powerful for content partners. They love the ability to maintain their master content and have it flow to all customers that license that content. So now I can call this English section 1, and then I can do next and finish it up. And now I've got another course. You're going to see they're nested here because I'm an owner in both of these. But if I come in and play the course, this section has already inherited everything from the original course. So it has the Great Wall of China. It has the Great Wall of China set up as a course template. And so all of that, if I came back up and I edited the master copy, if I went into the editor, I could come in here and I could go ahead and add a new folder. We'll call it Unit 2. And we'll go ahead and save that. And inside Unit 2, I'm going to add another very simple example just so you can see how this works. This will be Assignment 2. Instructions would go here. And I would have a Dropbox. And so I add a Dropbox and I save. Now remember, I did this in the master course. So now when I come back and I look at any course that was derived from that master, including section 1, you'll see that that new information has already mirrored its way into my new course. And so from a publisher standpoint, this becomes super powerful. We control any conflicts that exist between an item that may have been edited by the teacher locally with the same item being edited by the publisher. We do a graceful check and handle those collisions. It just works great. This concept of a base course and its derivatives. And so that's kind of how all of this kind of comes together. So that's how courses are created or copied from a subscription into an existing course. This section is going to talk a little bit about the different types of gradebooks that a school district or publishing customer could put together for their students. Again, based upon how you configure Buzz, you can then choose whether it's sequentially driven instruction, project-based learning instruction, mastery-based instruction, and we do things a little bit differently for each one of those types of information delivery. Again, that's fairly unique in the way Buzz handles this compared to other learning managements in the system, but I think it works well. So Kind of first off, if we just look at a standard gradebook, I'm going to come into the geometry gradebook. This is a fairly traditional gradebook, lots of columns, lots of numbers. You do have the ability actually to display lots of information inside the system. So each gradebook can be configured uniquely towards the teacher's liking. As you click on the header of any one activity, we're going to give some additional information. So we have the students in this case did a quiz. If I look at the analytics for that quiz, I can scroll down and get a lot of detail. I can determine if I need to remediate or move forward. As I scroll down near the bottom, we'll provide additional information around proficiency and how the spread is. All of that detail is available to the teacher, so they can determine how well their students are doing. If I scroll out a little bit further out to the right, if there's an activity out here that's not completely done, I can actually click on that and then go into what's called batch updates. So I can very quickly fill any unscored, unsubmitted, so on and so forth with a potential score. So I'm going to go ahead and just update those. You'll see the system will update them very quickly. I could have gone from learner to learner if I wanted to and just navigate through one student at a time. So that process works out really well also. There's a number of other fast ways. You can just turn on the quick editor and treat this as a spreadsheet. So you just hit enter, and as you go in there, you can type in a score, and just away you go. So we try and give teachers lots of ways of working with the detail. You also have the ability to filter this at any time by groups, by categories, by semesters if you need to. So this is kind of the traditional gradebook as it's set up. If I come back home, when we come to a PBL setting, in this case I'll go to this gradebook, it presents things very differently because we're more concerned about certain outcomes that show the whole student and how they're doing. Agency, collaboration, written and oral, and knowledge. And so when we look at an activity in a PBL setting and we look at the students connected to them, we can have a very different looking gradebook. We could have an emoji gradebook for a K through 5. It's just a matter of setting it up correctly. When I look at activities inside this environment, I can simply click on one of these and you will see that when I click on a student, I'm going to have more than one bucket in order to score the project they're working on. In a traditional gradebook, you usually have one score for the assignment. In this case, I could have one or more buckets to actually gather evidence of student learning. And in a PBL setting, in a project-based learning setting, this becomes super critical. And so there's some good things that can happen when we're looking at a project. We deal with it very differently. The dashboards look differently. The points are scored slightly differently. They're more aligned to the way a traditional project-based learning system would work. The other area that we're currently working on is a mastery-based gradebook. So if I came in here and looked at the mastery-based gradebook, again, this gradebook simply identifies that the student has attempted a particular outcome. And so when I click on the activity, I'm going to see the outcomes that are aligned to that activity, and I will have scored the student based usually on a 1 to 4 or developing to exceeding level, as you would see in a mastery-based model. And I can come in and modify those settings aligned to the outcome. So the whole idea with a mastery-based gradebook is I need to show proficiency of outcomes as I move forward. And any one activity could be aligned to one or more outcomes, and so we need to be able to gather that information as we move forward. Again, some other similarities that we have available in here as we move forward, as you've seen. But what I want to do is kind of show you the unique part around this when I go to my final grades for a semester. We gather up all the activities the student has submitted. In a mastery-based model, it may take, in this case, Aaron, 4 or 5 tries of activities in order to say, I'm developing or exceeding or excelling in any one particular outcome. So you can see down in here for this literacy outcome, he's actually got a lot of assignments that have been worked on, and we can see his development over time. So as I review the outcomes that have been presented for this week or this scoring period or term, I then can give them kind of where I think they are for this term, and then I go ahead and leave a response and submit this. And so this is another way of being able to score. So you have sequential scoring, you have PBL scoring, you have mastery-based models. They're all supported inside Buzz when the system is configured correctly. Okay, we're just going to log in as a teacher, in this case, who has administrative rights, teacher rights, observer rights, and students' rights. And in this case, we're going to go through the admin application at a high level just to show how the system can be set up. We have a concept of domains and subdomains. And in the domain, an administrator has the ability to see what's happening in the domain at any time with the teachers they have. This data is drillable. I can move down through it. I can sort it. It's just an easy glance to know what's happening. Administrators also have the ability to create as many subdomains as they need. They can also create roles. There are certain roles, administrator, owner, teacher, and student, that are inherited from the Agilix root. The rest of the domains or roles can be modified at the domain level. You have permissions. All permissions flow downhill, so I can go from a main domain to a subdomain, and my permissions persist across those. They're very granular in design, so if I came in and looked at the permissions, I can create a role that has any combination of these settings in order to allow my users to have access to the part of the application that they need. We also have the ability to subscribe content to a domain. So I can see different content providers' material within inside my domain, thus making it easier for me to create courses, copy courses, get those learning activities out of the digital library. You also have the ability to create announcements, resources, and actually configure the domain in any number of ways to support how your learning will take place. I'll show another example of this a little bit later. Also at the domain level, you have the ability to handle different settings. So you can go through, set up avatars, permissions, badging, blackout dates, other activities, all can be set up in here. G Suite integration. This is how we control what a domain looks like and how it works. You also have the ability to add users in a number of different ways, courses, objectives, reporting, so on and so forth. All of those capabilities are part of the admin tool. Okay, now we're going to discuss how the system can be configured to meet the needs of a particular school. So I'm going to log in on the left-hand side as Thomas Webster, and on the right-hand side, I'm going to log in as Melora Jones. You can see they have different permissions. I'm going to log in and look at the Features tab, and we're going to see that a lot of things have been configured off. So blackout dates, groups, editing, settings, mails, announcements, clipboard. A lot of things have been removed for the teachers. Now, the nice thing about how this is set up is if I did have a teacher who wanted to move forward with badging, for instance, I could come to that teacher and actually edit their individual settings and turn badging on just for that one user. So you can shut it off for the whole domain, all the users in the domain, but then turn it back on for a lead teacher or a master teacher. To show you how this kind of works and what it looks like, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the teacher app, and I'm going to come into the teacher app here. Thomas Webster has all configuration options turned on, where Melora Jones has most of them shut off. And so I'm going to come into the editor to kind of just show you some of the differences. This is the same geometry course. Both teachers are listed in here, but you'll notice that Thomas Webster has the ability to modify objectives, where objectives are not available for Melora, as well as course activities and resources. And so you can kind of start seeing, you can also see across the top, the list of activities are not as broad. So Thomas can set up group settings and scheduling and projects, where Melora does not have that functionality. It's even a little broader when you look at the course settings. Again, this deals with training and actually how the system is used. But if I scroll the screens down here a little bit so you can kind of see, Melora Jones has options to modify the gradebook, categories, objectives, course links, and LTI tools, whereas Thomas has a lot more. So if I continue to kind of bring this down, you can see that just due to the configuration settings, I have the ability to deal with grading periods, with advanced options, with student tasks, with enrollment settings, badging, variables, completion badges, publisher options. So depending upon who my user is and what they need to accomplish into the system, I can simply configure the system for the entire domain or for individual users, thus allowing the deployment to be very granular and to have control over how the system operates. Now we want to talk a little bit about the concept of Publish Anywhere. Publish Anywhere allows for our content partners' content to be delivered to other LTI compliant learning management systems like Canvas, Schoology, Blackboard, Moodle, so on and so forth. This makes it very good because our publishers have the ability to not only service users on the Buzz platform, but if a customer wants their content and already has acquired an LMS, Publish Anywhere allows that business to continue. So basically what happens with Publish Anywhere is the content is set up on-site Buzz, and in this case I'm looking at grade 5, and what they would do is they would export that IMS package. We can come through and we'll tell them exactly what to be careful for as far as the IMS global standards are concerned. Ultimately, a key and a secret and a thin common cartridge is created and delivered to the customer. So in this case, if we come back and look, this is what it looks like on Buzz. If I come into what is science, what is scientist, you can see that it's going to come up. It's going to present the data. This is kind of unique content in that as I scroll down to the bottom, it actually has embedded quizzes inside the learning activity itself. So it's a combination of instruction and quizzes, which works out really, really well. It also is very, very difficult to kick over into another LMS. And so because Publish Anywhere was built with a content management system and a learning management system combined together, we have the ability to really display all of our content inside another system. So in this case, what we did is I've gone ahead and loaded this up over in Canvas. And so this is what it looks like in Canvas. I've also loaded it up inside Schoology. And in this case, I've obviously already turned on What is the Scientist? You can see what it looks like. As I scroll down through this, make this a little bit smaller. Scroll down through this, you can see that it presents it. I have all the content. I have the questions at the end. It works great. If I come back over here, same concept. As I come in, and I take a look at the learning activity inside Canvas, again, I have the benefit of seeing the content, moving down through it, again, having the quizzes. So not only can we display the content extremely well, but because we have the LMS capabilities, I'm not just displaying the content, I'm actually embedding some of Buzz inside these other LTI compliant learning management systems. So I also include the grader capability. So in this case, I can go through and look, this student has already been graded. This student is submitted, but there are a few essay questions in here that I need to grade them on. So I'm going to go ahead and just grade them on the remaining elements of this. And then I will be ready to go. The rest of it is already graded for them. I can go ahead and give them a response. It might be audio, video, it could be a template, and then I can submit the score. That score is then directed back to the student gradebook, back to the host LMS gradebook. And so it works out really well. I can move between customers. All of this data is shipped over to the host LMS. We also give them analytics, very unique in the way Publish Anywhere offers this information up, because I can come in and I can see exactly how they did, what percentage right, what percentage wrong, do I need to stop and remediate? All of that detail is available, and many of the host LMSs that Publish Anywhere will run inside don't have this level of analytics on their quizzes. We also expose the setting tab so that a customer who receives a Publish Anywhere package from one of our content partners has the ability to treat it as an assessment. They control all sorts of things that allow them to present the assessment in the way they want to do it, even though it's not coming over, it's coming over as an LTI link. So again, some really cool stuff happening inside here. It really elevates the game of the learning tools interoperability, the whole thin common cartridge concept, and creates an environment that has been very well received. So whether it's in Canvas, Schoology, Blackboard, or native on Buzz, we can render the same content across any LMS.